Hey, Mike, can you hear me? This is Wes.
I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you, Wes.
You hear me, Kim? Okay.
I got you.
I was on mute. I didn't realize it, but I was on mute. I think I'm good now. Now, who was that color kin to? Dr. Acuff?
No,
No, it's Sonja's cousin.
Sonia's. Okay. Sonia's brother?
cousin.
Cousin? Okay. I just
He was
seen
a good
that.
guy.
Yeah, we had was a supervisor at Snap-on passed away, Wayne Rouse.
We
Yeah.
went to school with Rick, Wes. We went to school with Rick.
I've tried to figure him out. I can't. Rusty Milton said I did, and I just can't place.
He worked up at Patey's, then he worked for Kleinholder for
I'll probably see a picture. I know him then, but I just can't place him.
He's a real good guy.
But yeah, they told me he was struggling, and Wayne Rouse was struggling, and he passed away yesterday, I think, or day before. Hey, Lord, it's part of it. We've got a number of cases at Snap-on. It's going everywhere.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hey,
Hey, Mike.
Good to see y'all. I guess we're waiting on Sonia.
Yeah, she said she was going to try to join.
Okay. We want to give her just a moment.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Hello, Patty. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, sorry. Hi.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Well,
you
went from one Zoom meeting at 4, one in-person meeting at 5. and back
There
to
you go.
Zoom.
So you've had a busy day.
Yeah.
I hope
Welcome, Mayor.
Well, we hope you've made some progress.
It's been a good day.
Good.
Well, good. That's good. I hate that we've had to cancel the parade,
I know.
Hate that.
I think it's probably the right thing to do, really.
Unfortunately.
Because there's just really no way to keep people safe and protected. And with this uptick we've had, and, you know, I've got 2 or 3 people that I know very well that all of them are struggling. Of course, Rick passed away, but, you know, all this other stuff. And I think, is Daniel on there with us too?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Well, hello, Daniel. It's a still photo of you, so it's a little strange just to see you without him. Are you scared to actually join in person?
No, I can, but then I can't read the news while y'all talk.
Well, that's okay. Well, I'm not going to.
It's true.
I'm not going to do what Kim asked me to do and ask what you're wearing. So that might be a little embarrassing. So we won't go there.
No, I'm in good shape. Still got my work clothes on, so
Very good. Well,
I hadn't slipped into the jammies yet, so I'm good.
okay. There's Sonia. Hello, Sonia. Good to have you. Is Josh with us too?
He's on there somewhere.
Okay.
Josh, and let's see, Kelly Collins.
Yeah, Kelly's on there. We've got everybody, I think, now.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and get the meeting started here at, well, approximately 6:04. Again, thank you all for being here. I really wish we could meet in public, but in person, excuse me, but it is what it is right now. And I think we just have to get used to this new normal, at least for a few months. If I can, I'm going to go ahead and get Shannon to call the roll so we know that we have a complete board here.
Chairman Mike Barnett,
Present.
Dr. Bob Acuff,
Here.
He said here, Shannon.
Sonja Color,
Present.
Kim Birchfield,
Here.
Mike Simmerly,
Present.
Mr. Wes Frazier.
Here.
Very good, all present.
Thank you very much.
And
Shannon.
I'm here too.
Okay, I seen you there, but I couldn't hear you. I didn't know if my computer glitched or,
Okay.
very
Okay.
good, thank you.
Do we have minutes we really need to look at other than our workshop minutes?
I did email the minutes out last week, I think on Friday, Thursday or Friday, for
Right.
everyone to look over.
Yeah,
Do we have-
motion to approve the minutes. Second.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. All righty, Shannon, lead us away with some of your reports on your numbers, maintenance, construction, animal control. We'll do quite a bit of the discussion on that, I'm sure.
So I wanted to go ahead and give everyone an update on the approximate numbers that we have since July 1st, and these numbers are through the 8th of November. And those numbers are, we've taken in about 422 animals so far just in the 4 months. And that is by appointments, and that is obviously with the emergencies coming in. We have had some very good adoptions, and adoptions do continue to go as well. With the COVID, we are taking precautions at the shelter. We are still doing our daily shelter cleaning with a product that is used in the hospitals. So our staff is continuously cleaning at the shelter as well. Thank God, all of our staff has remained healthy, and we're very thankful for that. And we just hope that they continue to remain healthy. But we are working by appointments only, unless it's obviously an emergency. I have spoken with Trademark over the leak with the existing dog runs. To my surprise, Travis got a bill from the plumber, which he thought was complete. And I said he's never been back out to even fix the issue. So now they're discussing. So now they're bringing Johan from the city in. They did go back to Reedy and Sykes to see what the problem is. They think it's an engineering problem, which the city's been down there. City came yesterday and blew our lines out. And they had somebody up at the city station that came out soapy water. So there's nothing there that would say that there's a blockage. So the issue is the pumps and the getting from point A to point B. There's some sort of issue there. So that's why they're bringing the engineers in. So with the city, Trademark, Reedy and Sykes, and Mike, I'm going to try my best to have you and anyone else who wants to join in on that meeting to give a hand in how we're going to get it fixed. So we still have the leak. They're going to have to cut the concrete to fix the leak there. But all that's on Trademark and the plumber. So on a good note, Mr. Kim had came by last week, him and his wife, to love on some of our little wonderful dogs out back. And while he was there, Mike was there, Mike Barnett, and he was there with Mr. Oh goodness, what's his name? It just left me. I'm so sorry.
We all wish you had an answer.
The guy from Lowe's, Jonathan Hauser, was there.
Yeah.
So Jonathan has a construction company, and we've been talking about the Lowe's project for a while now. And Mr. Daniel, I'm glad you're here so that you can hear this in progress, and Miss Libby as well. Lowe's has made a proposal to us to enclose the outside area where our dogs are outside. So that area is actually when it's below zero and we have dogs out there, the dogs are cold. And so this pulled on one of our community's heartstrings, and she got the ball rolling and she got in touch with the right people. So Lowe's has offered to donate materials. Also, Jonathan has concrete. He's got some other stuff donated. All of this will be no cost at all to the city of Elizabethton or to the county to get this area enclosed back there. It is we're blessed that they thought enough of our shelter that they wanted to make this huge improvement, which will help all the way around. And so Jonathan thinks that he's going to go ahead with construction. He's going to pull the permits, everything like that. So he talked with Mike. And Mike, if you want to add something on any of the construction, or Kim, you heard some of it, if you want to chime in there. We've been talking about it for a few months, and it's just now come to fruition. So we're very thankful for that.
We need to do something with the paper or something to thank Lowe's. They have really stepped up with this. And, I'd love to get somebody over there and do some kind of article on it, what Lowe's is trying to help us do.
Jonathan's plans is to start with the footers immediately. Now, when I say immediately, maybe next week. He's pulling permits and everything he needs now. He spoke with the trusses was in the estimate, I think, of the number that he had. But it's a big project. It's a very needed project out there. And I know it'll help my staff when they're out there in freezing temperatures trying to clean and wash these runs down. And just as soon as you spray them down, they're freezing right back on you. So it's a very needed project, and we're very, very thankful that they thought enough of us. And there's several people who have donated items. I do not know all of them, but Jonathan is keeping a list. So I think it's very warranted that we give a big recognition in the paper. I know Lowe's in Johnson City also donated some stuff too. So I think it's, there's Summer and Taylor donated stuff. So a lot of different people have donated to the shelter for this project. Mike, you want to add anything on the project?
Well, nothing other than, when you look at it, that truss is going to come all the way back over the new pads that are, poured back there in the back that we already had done. And so it's actually going to encapsulate that whole back area as far as that goes. And so that's going to also involve, a little bit of pier support with block and stuff, and there's going to be some micro lamps and stuff in there for support. And then we'll be able to, as we come along rather quickly, because there'll be a crane out there setting those trusses, we will remove the metal and also the tuba tins that were back there for the roof that's over the existing open dog runs, and we can reuse that later. We can put that out there for shelter over maybe some of the outside play areas. So if it's really hot or raining, we still want to let an animal out for a little bit of exercise, we can still utilize that. So we're not going to lose that type of material. So I think that's also encouraging. We just need to be sure we keep it stacked and take care of it.
As far as the big agenda tonight, I think is the ACO, and I'm not sure where that's at on your list, Mike, but you have anything else you'd like for me to cover before we go into the big discussion of the animal control?
Yeah, why don't you give us the latest numbers on the community cats and what you've transported on the community cats. And if you also have some kind of adoption events that we're looking at to try to get some of these animals out as for the holidays, in other words, there's a lot of times that tugs on people.
So we have had some people to come in to sponsor some of the animals already for our Home for the Holiday events, and that will be the week before Thanksgiving. And that will be the week before Christmas as well. And it'll probably be the weekend before Christmas since there's a holiday starting on Wednesday. So Home for the Holiday events, it's coming. Tell everybody who's looking for an animal. We've got some great animals in there. A lot of them already house trained, potty trained. We just had one turned in today that was, the man had papers on it. So a lot of people is, for different reasons throughout our community is having to surrender some animals. So, anybody looking, have them to come see us. Some of them are already sponsored, like I said. Our numbers with our community cat program, our feral cat program, we're right around 225. And so it's amazing that our community is still supporting the program. As long as they keep supporting the program, we're going to keep going to Asheville to help get these cats spayed and neutered. I can say that I honestly think that we can see a small difference in the numbers of kittens being brought in at this time from the community. Some of them was repeat offenders that we talked to before and told them, we're going to take this litter, but you have to get this mama cat spayed to stop the population. And so with doing that, we're not getting reoccurring litters by the 5 to 8. An average per cat is 5, but they can have up to 9 or 10 kittens. So slowly but surely, we're seeing a decrease in that. The community support is tremendous. We still have people actually that's still donating to Mr. Barnett through the shelter. So we're very thankful for that.
All righty, thank you, Shannon. Well, I guess the elephant in the room is going to be the ACO animal welfare laws, the budget request and stuff that's going on. I'll just maybe open it up for maybe you, Patty, to give us an update on what you're hearing or seeing, or some of the commissioners or whatever that want to go ahead and address some of this. Anyone?
This has to pass before full commission though, correct?
That's correct. I mean, it was a 5-3 vote last night for the ACOs. Thank you, Mayor, for your support. And I think that it stands a very good chance of passing. I talked with Mark Tester yesterday afternoon sometime before budget meeting. And of course, they would like to find some additional revenue sources for the shelter. And I told him that empowering our ACOs by the resolution and laws that Attorney Hardin have put in for them to consider would also provide an additional funding source. So I think it stands a very good chance of passing. I did talk with Austin James this afternoon, one of the no's on the vote, trying to explain to him that if we're going to do this, as Attorney Hardin said, if we're going to have animal control officers, we got to go at it the appropriate way, and we've got to put forth the effort. It shouldn't be, taken with a cavalier attitude. If it's something we're going to provide our citizens, and the mayor made this statement last night, then we need to do it.
Yeah, I'll agree with Dr. Acamp. I don't see it having a problem with the commission Monday night. And I think Josh Hardin said, and I've said too, it's if we're going to do something, we should do it 100%, not, in between that. It's a offer to the citizens of the county. It's a service we need to provide. And I agree with it. Of course, we got it through budget last night, and Kelly will be thankful for that.
Right.
So it's a positive move.
So on that note, I just want to explain a little bit. So with the resolution that Mr. Harden has sent out today, this afternoon, I know some of you have gotten it. I don't know if you've able to look over it yet or not. I feel as animal control comes back to the shelter, until that we make people responsible for their pet that they own, they're not going to take us very serious. And so by giving us some control of the animal control officer who can write penalties, that is actually revenue coming back into the shelter that can support ACO officers as we make public aware that we're serious about this issue. We're not going to tolerate, and most of it is all state laws, but we will just be enforcing the state laws. Once we start enforcing the state laws, I think people will become aware that, hey, they're serious. This is going to cost $1 amount. So if I'm going to have an animal, I'm going to care for it. I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep it on a leash, on voice command, or contained in my yard. And as long as they follow the state law rules, nobody should ever be calling in for a welfare check or complaints about somebody's animal. If you're a responsible pet owner, you will have no worries whatsoever. But until that we make these people be responsible, I don't think that they're going to take us very serious with animal control. And so once I think that we'll see the numbers cut back, it'll take a few years, but I think we'll see the numbers cut back once that they know, hey, there's an animal control truck out there. These people don't care to knock on the door and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So in that aspect, we have some people who honestly don't know. And so I think education, along with the animal control officer, educating our people out there. There's programs out there when people fall on hard times. It's not necessarily they need to surrender that dog. There's help out there. If you can't afford food for a month or two, there's food pantries out there. But we can get them into reach with the right agency that can help them with food, shelter, to help them keep. We want their pet. We want everybody to keep their pet and just be responsible. But if they fall on hard times, and we've had some people come in that's fallen on hard times just through COVID, we want help out there available to these people as well.
All righty, anyone else?
I keep hearing the radio or something that's cutting out, and I can't hear half of the time what's been said. Here,
City, when does this come before the city? Is it this Thursday for the first reading?
No, I think it's going to be a December meeting, isn't it, Daniel? Unless you have an orange.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And
Yeah,
then
the
it has
agenda
to
was
go-
already set before we had when we had the meeting in person with the shelter last time at the courthouse. The meeting agenda was already set, so yeah, it'll have to be on for December for first reading.
December. What are we looking at again, Shannon, as far as money?
So last night we went up $10,000. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that. So at our workshop, we started at 70. Now we're up to 80 last night. Does anybody want to go for 90 tonight? Here's 30.
90, I hear 90.
Charm. Let's go for 90.
Let's go, go.
So
And you laughed at me for rounding up.
I love it. I love it, Mike. You done great. It's wonderful. We're going to keep rounding up. So just like I told them last night, I don't know what it's going to take. I think that 2 officers, we should give it a try with 2 officers to start out. And those 2 officers, full-time, is 36. Hang on, I can get the exact numbers. I know that the night we had the workshop, Mr. Daniel kept asking, what is the bottom number? What's the bottom number? And every time it came up a different number. And so now we're going to try to lock it in. So salary for 1 full-time animal control officer is, and this is with benefits, is $36,364.20. So $36,364.20 would be 6 months for 2 of them.
Okay,
That's full-time, okay? So now, part-time, 2 part-time, actually 1 part-time yearly is $19,858.21. So this is going to allow us, can we get by with 1 part-time? We're going to see with 2 how it goes with 2 full-time. And then if we need to add a part-time in there, we can add a part-time in there. I don't know what January is going to look like. I know that there's several calls throughout the day. If the board agrees, I would like to have all the calls go still through 911. That way we have a log of what the complaint is and the address, and they will dispatch the animal control officer straight from 911. And so that's why if we have 2 officers, we're going to need 2 phones. But now if our officers change off with the part-time personnel, the truck and the phone will go with that. I don't intend on having cell phones for everybody. We will have a cell phone per animal control unit. The issue now that I see, so with 2 part-time and 1 full-time is what we're looking at to start. And I look to
Okay.
add part-time on. And like I explained in the meeting last night, we had rounded up just a guesstimate from the workshop. They thought, the sheriff's department thought they had 26,000. The number given last night was 29,000.
Ooh, okay.
So.
And I'm sorry I asked these questions, but I wasn't at the last meeting. So I'm just
No,
trying
no,
to get enough. Okay,
No.
I'm sorry.
No. We want everybody on the same page, and we want everybody to understand what we're doing, when we're doing it,
Okay,
and the road that we plan on traveling to get there. So anybody is more than welcome to ask any question that comes to mind. So we'll go ahead with if it passes, we'll go ahead with, with the uniform, the pants, the jackets, the trucks. I don't know if the truck needs tires on it. I have not even looked for another truck. Mr. Parrish said that he was going to look through the fleet over there, see what they had available that may be able to help out with another vehicle. I say truck because 4-wheel drive, and it's easier to get our dog box in the back of them to put our animals in. So I will need to get some intake forms and door knockers for the animal control officers. Every time an officer goes out and brings an animal in, there's a detailed log of why the animal was picked up, where it was picked up, what the call originated from, has it bitten anyone, and we will take actions depending upon what the intake sheet says once it arrives at the shelter, how long we hold it. Most all of our animals as strays are held for 7 days. If we have reason to believe that they are a owned pet, they come in with a collar, or like the Rottweiler we had, a purebred, it looks like it's just groomed, some kind of tags on it with no phone number. We'll hold the animal for 10 days trying to get it back to its rightful owner. So, anybody have any questions about ACO or any suggestions? We're up for suggestions on how you think it should work. My goal is 7 o'clock. I plan to have an officer coming in at 7 to 3 and 1 9 to 5. Anytime after that, if they're called out through the night, I hope that they're able to either come in later the following day or leave early the following day to compensate for that time. Now, if they're all through the night, I'll do my best to let them off a day, not to have overtime, or take them off a shift and let a part-time pick up the shift. Like I said, I don't know how that's going to work. I have talked to different animal control officers, and this is kind of how that they go. But anytime that they're called out through the night at Washington County, it's automatic 2 hours overtime. So we're gonna try to work around the overtime. We're gonna try to make it as 40 hours as possible for our full-time. And like I said, this is new to us. We're gonna do our best at any point in time. Please, if you have a suggestion, don't hesitate to call and say, hey, let's try this.
I think the board is probably in agreement that we need these calls to go through 911 so that we do have logs and records for liability. Is that correct, board?
I can't hear you, Mike. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear the dog?
You can mute your phone. We're picking
hear
up
you.
feedback.
Do what?
Okay, can you hear us, Wes?
Yeah, I can hear now.
Okay.
So we're talking one officer, 36,420. That's with benefits.
It's 2 animal control officers for the
2.
6 months. These
Okay.
figures are for the first 6 months, starting in January through the end of June. The
Okay.
fiscal year.
I think that'll will give us a little bit of a track record of what's going on, the amount of calls, needs. Hopefully, if we get everything passed the way that we would like to see, it will also give us a little bit of revenue stream information coming back into finance with some of these penalties and other things for people not taking care of their animals the way they should or following state regulations. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of help from that also. Most anything that I've seen Shannon work on at the shelter, she strives very diligently to try to come in under what the estimations are. So I'm sure she'll do everything within her power to make this thing work for even less than what we're asking for. But of course, there's so many unknowns right now that we really can't, determine what's going to go on.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out the city's half on what we're going to have to go back and try to find. Daniel, are you still there? That's what I'm trying to figure out here that I was adding up on it.
It's
Yes, sir.
44,000 for the entire year, Wes.
How much, Mike?
44,000 for the entire year. Was it-
That's just from city?
yeah, from the workshop.
Okay.
Number we came up with. Is that right, Daniel?
And yes and no. Yes, as in that's what was said at the last animal shelter workshop. No, as in I'm not entirely clear on what came out of budget committee last night for what was going to be approved by the county.
Okay, so let me try to break this down one more time. So at the workshop, we came up with 70,000. And from there, we figured on 26,000, which from the sheriff's department, which actually came up to 29,000.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. So that gave us a balance. Let's see. 41,000. Is that right?
I don't know. What's the total you're working from?
Okay, so we
29.
started.
70 originally. It was 70 originally. Now, did we up it 80 minus the 29?
Last night we got to 80.
Okay. That's
Now,
where I'm
son
trying
of
to
a-
go at.
We're
Last
going
night
for
was-
90 tonight.
Last night was 80.
Yeah.
So
Late
80
last
minus, yeah, 80 minus the 29 leaves a
29,000.
51,000 need.
Okay.
Yeah, it was $29,723 plus 50,000. So it's 79,723 is what the budget committee approved last night.
So
136,000 is what I come up with.
what was those numbers, Wes? I'm sorry.
136,000, taking the 29 off.
Okay, you're doing the whole year?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing for the 6 months.
Okay, 6 months. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So just half of that. Plus we have to factor in another vehicle there. We'll make it work with one vehicle. We may not get there within an hour on some of the calls. I know that everybody's strapped for money. if the sheriff's department has a vehicle, that would be great. If not, we'll do our best to make it with one. It's kind of like our animal control officers. I hate to wear the one truck out and wear,
One guy.
full-time officer out. So we can borrow your truck, Wes.
Yeah, okay. I'll go along with them.
Okay, that's great. So, once that I don't know if they just put tires on the truck over there. I don't know if the truck needs maintenance over there. When the truck was at the shelter this past week with the animal control officer, the truck looked in good shape. I did not think to look at the tires. I'm not one to judge tires anyway. So, if they need tires, I'm figuring $600-700 for tires. So I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. I don't know. I figured the dollar amount in there just in case that we need it.
So Shannon, can I get the total cost for 6 months? I know you got to have startup costs and all that. That's fine. I got that, and that'll be a current year expense. But then the rest you're going to need for 6 months. We can worry about the year next fiscal when we get to budgeting. Let's not even worry about fiscal 22 yet. So give me a total all-in cost for everybody on everything that you're going to be adding in this fiscal.
So let's break it down.
No, don't break it down. No, just give me the whole thing at the bottom line. I don't want it broke down. I want it consolidated.
Okay, hang on one second.
If I had a calculator, I'd help you, but I don't have one. I'm dumb on dirt.
Okay, so we're looking at 2 full-times and 1 part-time, 46, 293, 31. And I'm figuring about $6,000 plus or minus gas, uniforms, maintenance on the truck, the door knockers, the workman's comp. And when I spoke with Brad Burt, he told me that the workman's comp was separate. So I figured that in there as a separate line item. Now this is 1 part-time and 2 full-time, okay? So if we figure, let's just do the 1 part-time. I'm looking at, let's say 55,000 plus a vehicle, another truck. And we had these estimates. Now, if we have to have another part-time in there, then that other part-time is going to be right at $10,000. So see, this is why we rounded up to 70 when we had our workshop, because that was for 2 full-time and 2 part-time is what we talked about at our workshop. That's where that Mr. was right at 62, 63 then.
Okay, the number you just said though was 55.
Correct.
55, and then you said if you've got a source of truck somewhere.
That, can I ask a question here, Daniel?
Sure.
If we have to have another truck, could we not take it, if we've got one that we're taking off of the street, could we not do something with that?
We may be able to. I'll just have to get with Greg and look at our fleet and see what we can do.
Okay, because I don't know if we've got anything coming off this year or not. But I mean,
Sure.
I'm just looking at trying to save money here and trying to help us. We make it with what we've got to.
Sure.
But,
I'm just back to chasing that 55. So 55, Shannon's this year only. That's this fiscal year for 6 months, give or take, right?
That is with 2 full-time and 1 part-time. But at our meeting, we discussed 2 part-time and 2 full-time. So
okay. So what? Compare the 55,000 with because you got 79,723 from the budget committee last night.
I'm not real sure where the extra $10,000 came from. I'm not sure where the numbers came from. It sounded good. It was great. I love the numbers, but I don't know. Honestly, I can't sit here and tell you I know where the 10,000. I did not throw those numbers out there. They didn't come from me. So I can say the 70,000. I can justify the 70,000 with the extra part-time person if we have to have 2. I have agreed to start out with 2 full-time, 1 part-time, and see if we can get by on that, just to save taxpayer money, to see where we're headed, because there's so many unknowns. I don't want to jump and hire a bunch of people when we can honestly do it for less. But in the same time, I can't wear all of our people out at the same time. So, I think it's fair that we start out with a logical amount. If we need to add it, the money's there to add it. Does that sound fair? Does that sound a logical reasoning to everyone, or would you all rather me start out on a different pace?
Well, I think it's always wise to have more money than you need. That way, you can always, say, "Oh, I didn't need all that." Make them feel better.
And so, and here's what I spoke with Brad Burke about, and of course, this will have to go through budget and the commission as well. If we take the 70, we get to 70,000. We don't need it. Put it in a reserve. That money comes off of next year's budget. That's less that we have to ask for. So of course the numbers are going to look better next year when that comes about. If we can save money, we're going to.
I know you will.
When do we feel like we would have a reasonable amount of time to let you look, Daniel, at your fleet, to reach back out to Mr. Parrish at the Sheriff's Department, and see maybe if we can get another vehicle? What kind of time frame are we looking at?
If you can be the first of next week, I think that'd be more than enough. We can try to run something down. Tomorrow's a holiday, so.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that'd be great.
We'll
And
try to turn that around.
not to minimize, we're not floating around here with a great deal, but if the Friends group, needed to help on a maintenance issue or something with these vehicles, we've got some money we can throw in there also to try to help get this fleet on the road, tires or whatever. But, just keep us clued in as to what we need to do.
Lost you, Mike.
Marty, any other discussion on that?
Daniel, are you okay with the numbers?
I can't, well, I hate to be the lawyer in the room again and say yes and no, or it depends. Sure, I don't have any reason to doubt any of the estimates that you've got to get the operation off the ground. Hold on to your hats. In fairness to the county, it seems like they've got more on the table than is needed. So I really don't know what the request is from the city. Because, I think we'd like to maybe try to find a way to do something if that's what's needed, but I just don't know what that's going to look like. Because I don't know what the committee wants to do.
Maybe providing a vehicle would be a start if we could find one.
Well, we can do that. And again, I can't promise you a brand new 4-door F-150 or something, but if we've got one that's on its way to be surplus, but it is what it is. I'm just trying to, be transparent to both the respective parties for the city and the county to understand where this thing's headed. So,
Well, the workshop, Daniel, what was your, when you left, you had a dollar amount in your head that we discussed there. What was that?
oh, you can never tell. I can't go back on that now. Come on.
Well,
I'm just playing.
we're
Yeah,
we're just talking transparency here. I mean, that's all
I'm
we're
giving you a
doing.
hard time. Well, and I guess here's how I know how my recollection of how the math went down was there was a certain dollar figure that was in mind at the workshop. And from that was subtracted the money that the sheriff's office had already been allocated for animal control, what was left of it and unspent. I know that number wasn't exactly right, but it was, 23. I know it's like 29,000 now or whatever. So you started with a total, took the 23 or 29,000 out of it. And then of that, what was left, there was some division between the city and the county. And I don't know those two particular numbers. I think the city walked away at 22,000 for 6 months was the ask. But
That's correct.
I'm just trying to come back at though, if we're only 55,000 is the full ask for 6 months for this fiscal, again, just to get through 6 months, I don't know that 22 is the right number.
What is the breakdown now, the comparison percentage for county and city, Shannon?
The city is paying 125 and 125,000. And I know that we had talked about that being increased before a possibility before COVID hit, and that kind of changed everything for all parties. Now, in all fairness and honesty, and the way I'm going to explain it to each of you here now is the way that I talked to Brad Burt, but it's still unrecognized money. So say that we asked for 420,000. And I'm going to do the math as we go. We asked for 420,000 and the city give us 125,000. That left us 295,000. So by the time that we got through expenditures, and I'm talking about not this year, but the last fiscal cycle, okay? So we turned in, say 65,000 that we didn't spend that year that we literally had saved, okay? That brought us down to 230,000. That was our actual expenditure for the shelter. Now, the money that we actually brought into the shelter as far as deposit, $40,000. And this is not donations. This is just charges and animal fees, okay, that was brought into the shelter. Now, that goes into the general fund, okay? So down, the true number is right around 170 to follow me on how I get to those numbers.
Well, we lost you there
Yeah,
after the 170.
Well,
You like
I guess my question is, if Daniel, if you're giving 25% to the whole overall cost of the shelter, could you consider 25% of this cost to the shelter? And even though the county's put the money in, then your part would go back to the general fund, which offsets the cost of the county, 25%.
Sure, I understand the logic in that, and I guess that'd be one where, to me, how I would come at it would be, I'm assuming you've got a total expenditure budget, everything out the door. Well, since this, I look at it in reverse like the library is, because the library is a city department in operations day to day. The county cuts a check to the city every year as an allocation, but so what the county doesn't fund in revenue, everything else by default is the city. I was looking at it the other way around. So if you take all of the expenditure for the shelter, every dollar that goes out the door on expenses, take the $125,000 off of that, and then by default, you're going to be left with the number that's expenditure that the county is covering. And to Shannon's point, then you also have to have, if you raise revenue somehow, if money comes in the door, I think it would be fair to kind of take that off of it too, because that's the operation covering itself a little bit. And then you can come down to a bottom line number. So start with your total expenses, take revenue generated by the shelter, then take the city's 125,000 off, and then you've really got what's left that has to be covered by the county general fund. And that gives you a real bottom line number to compare to the 125. So Shannon, does that make sense? And can you kind of shoot at that number?
Yes, and that does make total sense. The problem with, and I think just like you just said the numbers, I'm totally on board with you and your numbers, Daniel.
Yeah.
But it is when it's deposited into the general fund, it's not theoretically the animal shelter's money, and
Agreed.
it's not recognized into a line item. But to me, money that's been
understand.
put into the general fund, but we can't claim that money, is the way that Brad Burke explained it to me, which it took him a long discussion to get me to understand why that wasn't the shelter's money, but it's not recognized money for the shelter. It's just a deposit into the general fund.
Sure. Let me look at it this way, like a regular city department. If the police department writes tickets, so please go speed through town and we'll try to generate a little revenue when everybody goes home. So go ahead, Mike Barnett, that's you. It looks like you're in the office. So when you go home,
Well, I am in the office, yes, and so's Patty. So me and her can drag right down. We'll start at the monument. You
Right.
catch us on the other side of the bridge.
And
Well,
I
I bring
know
that-
it's organized too.
There you go. To bring up that example, though, is to say, if you come pay your ticket, that's general fund revenue. I get that. But this is somewhat of a different animal because it's a joint venture between the city and the county. Just for administrative reasons, the books get done at the county and the personnel go to the county. I get it. Maybe that's something we can work on. Maybe it's something that we don't need to even fool with and don't worry about it. That's fine. I mean, I think it's one that we're going to have to come up with some reasonable way to say to Ms. Culler's question. How much is getting paid by each side? How do you figure that in a fair way? And you can come up with it. I mean, I don't know.
Daniel, I'd like to also point out that even though the county is paying for a large amount, around 30% of that is city residents that are paying also, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. I'll channel my inner Jeff Treadway and say, yes, ma'am, I understand. Because
Yes.
actually the very same day that my city property tax notice hit my mailbox, my county one did as well. So it's an overlapping tax jurisdiction. So, yeah. So those of us who live in the city end up paying twice. We pay a proportional part of the city's 125,000, then we pay a proportional part of the county's remainder contribution to make the animal shelter operate.
Well, I can
That is
just say
correct.
I'm in the clear when I drive tonight. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Then you better hope you don't get a ticket in North Carolina.
Better believe that.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a long way to come around the barn kind of conversation, but to kind of maybe end where we began would be, I think if we can come up with a fair way of coming up with a number on what the net cost is to the county, and then, compare that to what the city puts in. I think that, maybe we can work from there. But I guess when do we need to have an answer on that? I mean, the commission meets on Monday.
I don't think that we're going to have any true clear-cut numbers, especially with adding animal control, until our 6 months through at the end of the next fiscal cycle. I don't think that there's no way of, we're guessing, and that's exactly what we're sitting here doing right now. We will have more numbers in stone once we get through the next 6 months, January to the end of June. And I think that that's a fair assumption. I know the city has been more than willing to work with us, and we have wonderful city councilmen on here that's just a phone call away for anything we need. Our county commissioners here, they're a phone call away for anything we need. And I think we've been realistic with the animal shelter numbers, and we've done everything we can to help, the community and be involved with our community and help in any way we can and save as much money as we can. So I think that we've been fair to both the city and the county as far as saving money, but it's just getting down to the bottom number of the part for the city and the part for the county.
So
The
what-
way that I do my numbers they match out in the long run, but they are not recognized as I would like for them to be when I go to explain my numbers to our board, at the end of our fiscal cycle. But I think you all have a gist of how I get to really the bottom number of really what's being spent and put into the shelter at the end, once it's all said and done.
So, but I guess what's, we have to start somewhere. We can't say, well, in 6 months we'll know, because we have to get ACO down there. So I guess what Daniel's wanting to know is, are we going with the 79 that was from budget, and then try to let the city do 25% of that? I guess is what Daniel's wanting to know. Or are we doing the 70, or are we going to cut it back to 55 and try to limp through with one part-time? I guess we need to decide exactly where we're going. So when we print it, present it to the commission, we can tell them, the city's involvement or whatever.
I think a number to throw out there is 70,000, minus the 29,000 from that is department for the next 6 months. I think that's a fair number. I think anything would be held over in a reserve account to go towards next year's revenue for animal control.
Okay, so you said 70 minus 29 puts you at 41,000.
Correct.
So, and of the 41, how are we getting to that? What are we going to do? How are we going to fund it? I guess is the question.
So,
are you willing to do the same percentage that you do on the yearly budget, Daniel?
I'm curious what that is. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, 25%, if that's what they're saying that you put in before revenue comes back.
10,250.
Yes, sir. If 25% is the right number, and again, I'm unclear. And when I'm unclear, I didn't want to speak with authority. That's why I asked, because I don't know for certain. So if it is, if it's 10,250, that's 25% of the 41,000. Sure. I mean, I can't speak for the council because, they make those judgment calls, but we can take that to them.
Well, you've got to have a number to go to them. So
yes, sir.
right?
I think,
Yeah.
yes, sir. That's what I was thinking was if that's what is it a reasonable opinion from the shelter board members? I mean, we can take them that 10,250.
What about it, board?
I think 25 is fair. I don't think we should ask the city to go higher when they're actually already paying more than 25 when you count what they're paying through their county taxes. I think we know how I stand on this, but
I'm with you.
That's a fair statement.
Kelly, I'm going to get you a shirt made. I thought about you last night doing budget. I did. I was like, if Kelly was here, I know what she'd say.
I hated to miss that budget meeting. I had another meeting, but sorry, I missed it.
But Daniel, you will also check on maybe a surplus truck to go along with that if possible, if you have something that you're ready to.
Yes, sir.
Surplus has been depreciated all the way through the cycles.
Yes, sir. I'll look at that. I'm going to put it on my calendar when we get off here. So I'll look at it over Thursday and Friday of this week, maybe try to get an answer first of the week. So that way, if it's going for a full commission Monday night, I hope to have something that's low hanging fruit that we can put on the table as well.
Great. Thank you. Everybody comfortable with that?
Good.
That's great.
Shannon, is there going to have to be any corrections or improvements at the shelter when ACO comes back to you as far as a room for them to work out of, extra holding pens, anything that we need to be looking at that, we might need to reach out and get some help from the Friends group or whatever?
I'm sure that we could, there's a lot that could be divided. The good thing with animal control coming back to the animal shelter, if they leave at 3 or if they leave at 5, they know pretty much before we leave, we're going to set 2 rooms up for calls at midnight that night, just so they don't have to rush in there and set a kennel up. So we already have those kennels, and that'll be an advantage of having animal control at the shelter rather than having one coming in that's blindsided and has no idea. So I think it will play out a whole lot better. We will know what we have available when the animal's picked up, and they'll already know where it's going. But I think that we can divide some lots up And especially now that they're being enclosed back there, and we can set aside certain quarantine lots that we're not mixing with the rest of our population in case we get sick. And I think that there's a few options that we can do. Shouldn't cost too terrible. It's just to get some rooms divided there. And that would be great if the friends of the shelter group can help us on that. That'd be wonderful.
Very good. All righty, board, any other comments?
I would just like to say, I think the next 6 months is a good situation because we can see if we're going to need more than one part-time. So I think that'll give us an opportunity to know what we're going to head into next year for the budget.
Very good. Thank you.
And I just want to say thanks to this board. I mean, we really try to do what we can do and everything. And I'm pleased with the way we're going, and we need to be proud of each other and what we're doing.
I second that.
I'm very proud of this board. I brag on this board. Y'all have been outstanding to work with, and you care a lot for our animals, and we couldn't be more thankful and appreciative of our animal shelter board members. We appreciate every one of them.
Are we going to meet in December? I know some committees and stuff are probably not going to, but do we want to go ahead and meet? Discuss where we are, what we're doing?
I think one thing that we did look over is the resolution that Mr. Harden sent out today. Do we need to get this in November? Do we need to get it in December? Do we need to try to get both of them passed on the same night at commission? What's some feedback on those resolutions?
Chair, one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is an additional source of revenue. So I think we need to push through the resolution and the other materials that Attorney Harden provided. And we need to make sure that our fellow commissioners understand that, and I don't know, Shannon, maybe you will know what the percentage is that Washington County pulls down from citations and other incidentals that they issue pet owners and others when they violate state law. And we've got to make sure that folks understand that we're only citing state law. We're not worried about my good friend Chris Williams, who lives up the creek and has Angus cattle, takes a bunch of his cattle to market and they poop in the bed of his truck and it falls out on Highway 91, and our animal control officer shows up and says, I'm going to cite you for that. We need to make sure that folks understand we're only enforcing the laws of the state of Tennessee. That's what got us here with a room full of coon hunters and bear hunters, last year. So I think bringing them both together and making the case that this is not only empowers our ACO officers, our ACOs to write citations, but it also gives the animal shelter an additional revenue source. So I think we need to pass them. I think we need to have them brought up on the agenda on Monday night. And Kelly, Sanjay, y'all weigh in on this if you think otherwise, or have something else to bring to the table.
I think we should, if at all possible, if we can get it in. Because if something doesn't pass, then we'll know where we stand and what we need to do next.
Did I jump out? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I didn't know if I made the motion that we passed the resolution.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Everybody's in favor with it, I would assume.
Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's this Monday.
Mr. Chairman,
All righty. Yes.
one question I would have would be, and I appreciate Dr. Ako's comments about that being a source of revenue to help cover some expense. I guess that also goes back to the other point, and I don't know if there's anything to do about it. It's one where it'll be a general fund revenue, would be my understanding. So that's revenue that helps calls out for everybody. But I don't think that not that I'm saying to change this, I'm just saying for clarification that it ends up being one of those where it helps everybody in the general fund to have that revenue, but it's good to show that as something that's helping cover some of the operation.
Yeah.
But technically you don't get to own it. I understand the logic there.
Is there any
Yeah.
way that we can change that?
There may be, but it may be difficult. Again, sorry, I was kind of nerding out in the accounting portion of it, but
Chair, I have a question, or for Shannon. When all this passes, if it does, where will the citations be paid at? Who will?
I guess it depends upon if the city writes the citation. The citations come through the officers. The penalties will only be through the animal control officer. So your city officers will be paid, I'm guessing at the city, and the county will be paid at the county.
Okay.
And that's just my fair guess. I mean, somebody may know more about that than I do, but the citations will be written from the officer, the responding officers. The penalties will only be written from animal control, and that will be running at large, no rabies, just the little state law rules. And if they don't agree to pay that, then they go on to a bigger fine in court. The citations cost a whole lot more than the penalties do.
Okay. That sort of answers the questions.
Out of just another question, on the citations that the officers write, the individual has to be given a court date, correct?
Yes.
Have we discussed any of this with Judge Bowers?
So no, but I know that some of them have been written citations already.
I just wanted to make sure he was aware that once all this goes through, that he may be seeing an influx in his court dockets if that begins getting a heavy load.
I think it'll be more penalties.
Okay.
Because they're cheaper than citations, but there again, more education out there for the people that they're responding to, and it will be more responsibility, making people aware. You're owning this animal.
A good deterrent.
Yes, and that's our goal. The dollar amount helps, but we want people to be responsible. We want our animals taken care of in our county, and we want our people to own the animals from the shelter, but we just want responsibility.
I agree.
Shannon,
Sir,
it's the penalties paid to the shelter, right?
correct.
Okay.
I'm still a little confused on that one. Is this a civil penalty that's assessed?
This is a penalty that, okay, Mr. Harden, if you want to chime in on this one, in the resolution that Mr. Harden had sent out, and I just sent that to all Mr. Daniel and our city councilman. I just sent that from my phone just a second ago. This is a resolution that Mr. Harden has sent out this afternoon, and this is giving our animal control officers, the way that I saw it, or I think I read it, the authority to charge a penalty and it be paid to the shelter. And it's a resolution to help us move forward with enforcing the animal control state laws. That's the way everyone else understood it as well.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having to do this on a phone for the first time ever, so I'm trying to learn how to use this. The resolution is simply because we can't, a resolution is required for the county to adopt these regulations. So we can't have the regulations as a standalone document. The resolution really doesn't change or add anything to the standalone document you already had. It just incorporates that document for approval. And yes, all of these violations for the city is basically, the county is exercising its police powers, which a city normally has the opportunity to do, but there's a specific state statute that allows the county to exercise powers to find things as a public nuisance, which is what this document does. So the bottom line is the regulations are civil infractions adopted solely as infractions within the unincorporated limits of Carter County. And the officers who are hired would have to write citations for civil penalties that are paid, and the funds generated therefrom could come to the animal shelter. Obviously, if folks didn't pay the penalty, there would have to be a court appearance, and that would generally be in Sessions Court. But being as it's a civil penalty, being the civil day.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hard, could I ask? I know
I
I
think
got
we
you
just
so
lost-
far,
there
but I
he
guess
is.
the question I'm going to say the other question is hypothetically, say our side, I don't have any pets actually. So please, that's not a gesture to please go take 10. I'm just saying, I've got 3 kids under the age of 6, so I've got enough chaos. Who would be the appropriate authority? Who's going to take in the receipt the funds if I just wanted to go pay the civil penalty and not appear in court?
That would be the circuit court clerk's office.
So that's what I'm asking. Because normally,
Yeah.
like if you get a ticket, say it's a moving violation, and we write you a citation for that in the city, you can come to City Hall and pay that, and it's taken care of. So I guess that's what I'm asking is if it's a civil penalty, is that going to be, is that circuit or sessions court or?
It'd be Sessions Court for the civil penalty.
Yeah.
Josh can chime in, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. It'd be Sessions Court.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. I don't know if y'all can still hear me or not. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. But yes, this has to go through Sessions Court. We just can't set up a box by the side of the road and take money. So yeah, it'll have to go through the clerk's office.
And that's thank you, Mr. Harden. That was I think Mayor Woodby's question earlier. I think that's also one logistically that somebody's going to have to work on is setting that whole process up. And show, computer systems and all that have to be arranged, and staff have to be brought up to speed to be prepared to take those in as soon as you start writing them.
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah, I agree with that. And keep in mind, what I have drafted here is only applicable to Carter County unincorporated limits. So if you're going to adopt mirroring ordinances in the city, Roger Day or whoever is going to have to basically adopt this document as ordinances in the city, because this is only governing the county, and it's going to create a problem, obviously, depending on where the animal control officer is what he can do.
Well, I'd follow up with that and say, perhaps you can just make it applicable to the whole county period, and we'll just repeal all of our city ordinance on the whole thing and be done with it.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I thought the city was the county.
Yeah, but the county commission only has authority to enact regulations in the unincorporated limits of the county. We can't make it necessarily. We just can't make applicable regulations to the city limits, that especially if they're in any kind of conflict with the city ordinances. So it would be fairly easy just to change it to, city everywhere it says county, and you all adopt it too.
But I think that raises another, obviously a logistical point that, isn't prepared to be resolved at the speed at which the county side's going to be, because that's already teed up for the commission to take it on. And I know I've continued to ramble while you've got a motion a second on the floor to adopt these rules. So I'm going to hush eventually, let y'all vote on it. But I think that's a fair point that, we need to get on the same page, or your animal control officers, once you get them hired, are going to have to be clear on what authority they have in the city. And then when you step outside the city limit, what authority you have in the county. That's a good point.
So, sorry, one more question. So it's basically going to be like Judge Bowers handles all county issues. Judge Hawley will now handle any city municipal animal situations itself, depending on the jurisdiction. And that's kind of how we do it now with the courts. All city citations, speeding ticket, ordinance violations go through the municipal courts. Anything that can receive jail time goes through Judge Bowers, or that happens in the county goes through Judge Bowers.
Yes, Mayor, that seems accurate to me. If it's a civil matter, of course, obviously it is for us, violate municipal code, so that'll be municipal court. And then for y'all, like you said, we've already said that if it's a civil matter for the sessions docket, for the county ones.
And Josh, did you say it would be, if it's considered a civil matter, it's going to be on the civil docket for Sessions Court, correct?
Yeah, I think it can be. I mean, all we would be pursuing by the citation would be a civil penalty. If someone's going to be charged with a violation of state law, that has to be, of course, in the criminal portion of Sessions Court. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about folks issuing citations for a civil fine, and that's it. There's no potential jail time at all in this. So, that's going to be one point of, I guess, where it could get complicated if an actual police officer or county deputy has to respond and actually makes a criminal charge, then obviously we can't issue a civil penalty for the same thing. So they're going to have to pick one route or the other.
Mr. Harden read my mind, because some of these things are going to tip over into actual criminal violations if you had something that was.
And Daniel, another question on your, if
Cruelty
people
or
don't
something like that.
pay
Again,
your
the
courts,
LA
how
State.
do you collect?
Go ahead.
When people don't pay the civil penalties, I know the
Oh, we
speed
get real nasty.
suspend their license, but how do you collect on ordinances? Because in civil court, there's no, I mean, in civil court, when you're sued, there's no collection on it. You default by judgment, and your only options are the person has to pursue the individual if they own anything.
Yeah.
There's no repercussions for the collect fee.
Well, then we'll turn it back. We'll go full circle on this. Yeah, if we've got a civil judgment against somebody, I think you can take it to the sheriff's office to execute on the civil judgment.
Yeah, you have to go through all the other extra legwork just to collect the money too. Yeah.
Of course, I'm having a little fun with the whole concept, but yeah, fair point. Depending on the level of the fine, you can turn it over to collections to try to get somebody to settle. But when push comes to shove, there's not a lot. If they continue to do it, or it's still hanging out there, if they've, justice is never perfect.
Yeah, the civil arena is a different ballgame.
Right. And to your point,
you cannot collect if they don't pay. There's really no alternative to collect. So
and sometimes it's not. Yeah, you lose money by chasing a judgment to get paid. Yeah,
Josh,
if it was $1 million judgment, we'll go execute it, but we won't have those.
Right, depending on the. Yeah.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the animal control officer that goes out can charge a penalty to be paid that goes in a deposit to trustee's office. Is that correct? That's in the resolution. Instead of going.
There is the ability to issue the citations where the money is paid. I guess if you're asking me specifically, do the officers have the ability to collect that fine? I don't think so. I don't think you would want them to have that authority. I think there's got to be a data processing, part of this where the fines are paid in, receipted out, and there's a whole issue for auditing and all that. So yeah, they can't just collect fines, but I think you're going to have to. It has to go through Sessions Court, just for the simple fact of if they don't pay the fine, then they've got to show up in court to have to answer to it, or you're just wasting paper.
Okay, here's how that Washington County does. Washington County, if they go out and say this is the second or third time, the first time on a rabies is $10. You don't have your rabies vaccination, you're charged a $10 penalty. If your dog's been running loose, you're charged a $10 penalty. The second time it doubles, but that penalty is paid at the animal shelter. So the animal control officer, they have their little legal form. If they take it, they give them 30 days to pay that. And from Washington County, what they've told me is the way they explain it is, if you don't pay this is going to turn into a citation that you're going to be charged court costs. So it's easier for you to pay your $20 penalty here rather than go and pay your $250 plus your $20 penalty in court. Now, this is the way that Washington County does it. So this is where that they're making them be more responsible by saying, look, the next time I come out here, all your animals had better have your rabies vaccinations or not be running at large. But the citations come from, like, the city has the same dog running down G Street 3 nights in a row. Then the city officer obviously gets tired of chasing the dog. He writes them a citation for running at large. And this, the city has written citations for animals running at large through the city. But now our cruelty cases is a whole different story. If a cruelty case is involved or a neglect case, that requires an officer that does the charges on that, and that's through either the city or the sheriff's department. The animal shelter has nothing to do with other than a holding facility and working with the DA to present a case in court.
Yeah, I'm on board with you on the dichotomy there, and I don't know what Washington County or Johnson City do, but that makes sense to me. I don't think we have that level of detail. I think it's kind of open-ended in what I did, and that's fine. I think you could do that preemptive civil fine, and if you pay that, it doesn't go to court, period. There's no court date scheduled, period. I think you could do that as long as it's set up in a way that's manageable and traceable back to account for all the money that comes in and all that. And I think that goes back to just the duplicate tickets and the way you all would have to process that once it flows through. But yeah, I could be on board with that. I think that would work, and you wouldn't have to put every case on the General Sessions Court docket.
Right.
Only those who didn't comply by paying the initial fine. And the fine, you can pick any amount you want as long as it's not more than $50. State law gives us the ability to charge up to $500, but that's not constitutional. And there's been plenty of court cases that strike that down. Essentially, we're capped at $50 per offense for any violation of these civil penalties the county adopts.
And on that line, we don't want to price people out of their animals. We just want them to be responsible.
All righty. Well, I think we had a motion and a second, did we not? Do we need to go back to that? Or do we need to restate the motion in the second?
Who made that motion?
Sandra,
I made the motion to pass the resolution.
Okay.
All right, who seconded it?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, Shannon, will you call the roll on that vote?
Absolutely. Chairman Mike Barnett,
Yes.
Dr. Bob Acuff,
Yes.
Kelly Collins,
Yes.
Sonja Color,
Yes.
Kim Birchfield,
Yes.
Mike Simmerly,
Yes.
Wes Frazier.
Yes.
Perfect. All ayes.
Okay, so do I understand, Daniel, that you're probably looking at dovetailing the city ordinances over to the rules hopefully the county is going to adopt?
Well, I was talking off the cuff. I don't know for certain where we need to land on that as far as city ordinance. It's one we'll have to take up and see what we need to do. And even if we wanted to, just for logistical purposes, if the county adopts this Monday, it's not by the time we get to Monday, the council meeting for November will be gone because that's Thursday. And for us to have 2 readings, you're looking at the earliest, the second Thursday in February before you could have anything done. If I had it fully drafted now, and we don't. So again, all that's logistical to say, we're going to have to live with the environment that the city ordinances are drafted as they are until we can get something appropriate amended if we so see that it's necessary to amend them. So you're going to end up again in the interim with county regulation that applies in a certain way outside the city's jurisdiction, but also then what's already on the books within the city, you'll still have to work with. So it's kind of lots of things there. One is the civil penalty, and then when you get beyond that and you actually get into a criminal offense, you're going to have to call law enforcement to have them take care of it. But then also, depending on where you're standing, city or county, you're going to have a different rule book. I think it'll be useful for us to streamline, though. Again, but that's me being a little premature because this is not a conversation that the city's had in any significant degree.
Okay.
And I think this is work in progress. And I think that it's not going to be perfect in the first month. It's not going to be perfect in the second month. But I think it is something that we can strive in the next 6 months to have our kinks worked out, workable animal control for city and county both.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, I'll add one other thing and say, I don't know necessarily for the city side if authority has been the problem. It's just been staffing and trying to work through what we have. Because, you know, when Freddie was a city employee, apparently I know he worked all the time doing this. So I don't think that what we have on the books is necessarily bad. It may not be consistent, and inconsistency might make it confusing. Maybe we want to clean it up, but I think we've at least got something to use in the short run. It's just going to be getting the people out there to do the work. And I think that's the other half of this that I know the animal shelter board's already chasing.
Yeah, communication and education is going to be a key when we get an ACO officer or officers in there. And of course, Shannon can lead a lot of that as she understands the different rules and regulations.
Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Harden.
Go, Sandra.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
I'm sorry. I have a question for Mr. Harden regarding the regulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless I'm mistaken, these are pretty much just state regulations, and they would apply to county and city both, wouldn't they?
Well, they're based off of the state law regulations, yes, but the actual civil penalty portion of it is what the county would be approving to be applicable to write the citations and do that outside of a police officer doing it. And back to Mr. Estes's point, I mean, I haven't specifically looked at that very much, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer, but my gut is that the county legislative body cannot pass regulations that are enforceable within the city limits. And that especially if there's any sort of conflict, but I'm happy to talk with Roger Day about that. And if it's just a matter of changing unincorporated limits to just plain old Carter County, and you've got one rule book for everybody, I'm happy to do that. My gut on that is that it's just not possible, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, my question was in regards to Daniel saying that it might be February before they get this passed. I thought, well, it's not going to be that much different from just state law.
Well, it is correct, but I mean, state law, there is state law is you charge somebody with a crime and you take them to Sessions Court. They can be released on a misdemeanor citation or they can be arrested. That's state law for all these infractions. What we're doing is making it strictly a civil violation of a county regulation that can be done a whole different way, like Shannon's talking about, without even going to court, essentially. That's a whole different ball game from, right now, an animal control officer who's not a sworn law enforcement officer doesn't have the power to do any of this. And that's what this resolution is doing.
Thank you.
I think we'll see more penalties than we do citations.
But not only do we have to pass the resolution, we also need to pass the regulations.
Well, that's what I was getting at earlier. The regulations are essentially incorporated within the resolution, if you get what I'm saying. The resolution is just the vehicle by which the county commission has to approve and adopt the regulations. It's essentially one thing. And it does have to be adopted by 2/3 vote of the full commission.
I'll concur with that. And as I skimmed it, what Mr. Harden had drafted there incorporated those regulations by reference. So that sounds good to me.
All right.
Wrap it up, Mike.
Okay, so we pretty well done.
Chair, let me just bring something before the committee for you to consider, or for us to consider. I don't know that we need to act on it tonight, but I've had enough flap from some of my fellow commissioners. We visited this before under the previous mayoral administration, not Barnett's administration, but Humphrey's. Looking at the shelter as a 501c3 entity, I would like to propose that we send that to financial management and ask them to evaluate that, just as MTAS did in 2015 for Sullivan County, Washington County, and Cleveland, Ohio, and made some recommendations for them. But I'd like to get that off the back burner and get it out in the open. So every time I get a call from a fellow commissioner about an additional revenue source for the animal shelter, that we consider a 501c3. I don't think it will work in Carter County based on a number of reasons. One being the average salary in this county is a lot lower than it is in Washington County. So that tells me that there are going to be very few folks that are probably going to contribute. Yes, we'll have folks that contribute to a 501c3 before as the animal shelter because they love animals. But I don't ever think we're going to have the portion that Washington or Sullivan County have as a contribution to their entity. But I'd like to just get it once and for all out there, let financial management research that particular issue. And if they're honest, I don't think they can come back and say, oh yeah, you should be a 501c3. I don't think it'll work in Carter County, but that's just my opinion.
Dr. Acuff,
Yes, sir.
a motion was made last night in budget for that to already happen. I didn't know if you were aware of that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been sent to financial management already, that same topic.
Okay, thank you.
Financial management to research the animal shelter becoming a 501c3.
Okay.
Very good. Roddy, what else? We're going to meet on December 8th then through Zoom. Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Good with me.
Okay, I do thank all of you. In particular, I appreciate Daniel and Patty and Josh and of course Abby for hosting this, but all the shelter board, I thank you all very much for being a part of trying to make a difference in our county and make it better and handle some of these issues. I would, before we sign off and take a recommendation to adjourn, take a moment and remember the freedoms that we have to disagree, to argue, to come together, to work together as we're doing. Think of the veterans, both past, present, and those that went on. And if you get a moment, just walk around our wonderful monument. It needs to have a few weeds pulled, but I'll get to it sooner or later. And just enjoy just the moment of what these people were willing to give up.
Mike, I did have it remulched and cleaned. It looks great.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't get down there today or yesterday.
I
I
had
was
new
going.
mulching and it's been cleaned and I had it taken care of.
Great. Well, I appreciate that very much, Patty. And I'm
Yeah.
going to go down there tomorrow and put out some flyers and our usual. And I think Rusty's going to come over and present some flags to the Memorial Committee. But if you see a veteran, give them a thank you. And I appreciate those that may be serving in our county and city and for what they do. So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all very much. Abby, again, thanks for hosting us and being a big part of this.
Hey, Mike, sign the minutes and Dr. Acuff will pick them up from me.
Okay, I'll be available.
All right.
Alrighty.
Y'all have a
night,
good one. Good day.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.